Hello, extra time.
They're important to the league not to get a hug because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you.
The single club, they're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit to the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the extratime.com podcast. Your host Luke joined by say Macdara, Ferris and Dylan O'Connell alongside me. Lads, how are we?
Very good, Luke.
All good, thank you. Football as well.
Coming up a little later on, we chat to Waterford FC striker Ronan Coughlan about his season so far. But first, we'll get to the action from last weekend in the Premier Division, the SSE Electricity League, starting with Cork City. Dylan, before we get into Colin Healy's departure, obviously they will be looking for a bounce in Turner's Cross last week, and unfortunately came up on the wrong side, losing 3-2 to Pats. What's your initial thoughts on the game?
Look, Pats were the better team, but and I know there was that penalty incident at the start of the first half when Tunde Oboale went down inside the penalty box. And arguably you could say City did have a penalty, but they did score within the next, I think, minute later after that. So it was a fair result because Pats did have a lot more stamina. Pats are a lot more of an experienced team. You could tell City tired towards the end of the game. So I think a win for Pats was probably a fair result, but it was another good performance by City at the same time, especially in the first half. They just went without an award, which you've seen happen far too many times these days, where City will play well for a period of 20 minutes or even the first half of a game. And it means nothing really because they end up losing. Just going back to this first game of the season against Bows, they played very well for the last 20 minutes and still got beaten.
In terms of then the first half performance you mentioned there, were you overall happy that there was a bit of a reaction to the group? Obviously a couple of defeats in the bounce there. 5 and 4, was it 4 defeats in the bounce before the game?
Yeah, they lost to UCD away, Derry City at home, Shells away and Bows away. So it was quite good that they had a reaction, especially for Colin as well, because Colin is Cork City through and through. He lives and breathes the club. When he wasn't the manager, he was head of academy. He's a former player. You see the passion on him, and if you ask anyone who knows Colin, that's the first thing they say is passion. So it was because he resigned. He wasn't sacked. He resigned from his position, which is important to kind of say. That the players did for him and the first half. You could have asked for a better, I suppose, first half from a Cork City perspective. The amount of chances that they created, they were scoring goals, they were causing problems. But at the same time, I suppose you are dealing with a team who are a lot better Pats. If you look at it, they have Chris Forrester, look at the ball Chris Forrester put through for the winning goals. There was an argument, a little bit of quality there. So you can't really fault the result too much because you are playing a team with a better quality. But no, it was a good performance by City, and that's, I suppose, exactly what we wanted down in Cork.
Yeah, I was interested to mention, obviously, the quality aspect in terms, I suppose, from a Cork City point of view, from looking on the outside, they may have thought that was a game possibly winnable, considering Pats went into the game. 3 defeats in the bounce. Just you mentioned Colin Healy there. Were you surprised he resigned? You mentioned his passion for the club and in terms of how much he's been there a long time, player, academy director, went into the managerial role, did a great job getting them up. Were you surprised he left his role voluntarily?
Yeah, definitely, because I suppose he originally came into the club in October 2020. I think he only had them for one game before they got relegated, and that was in Nidal out against Waterford in Turner's Cross. So I think that's off the top of my head. I think it was the Waterford game. But he came in, and that was a really bad time for the club. There was the takeover at Grovemore that eventually fell through. You had, yourselves, if there's a takeover collapses, that usually falls through. People aren't exactly happy with that. Colin was thrown into a club that had just gotten relegated 2 years after they were in an FA Cup final, 3 years after they won the double. So Colin was tasked essentially with rebuilding the team, and he did that. But even in 2021, he didn't exactly have the easiest of starts. They beat Cove in the first game of the season. Then they lost 4 games in a row. They beat Wexford, I think it was Wexford. Then they only won one of their next 3 games, something like that. And I remember they lost 1-0 to Cove in St. Comas Park. And I was talking to Colin afterwards, and I asked him, was he under pressure? And he admitted himself he is under pressure, but I think City were second from bottom in the first division that night, or third from bottom. So he needed to get a formula that works. He brought in Aaron Bulger, bought in Barry Coffey, found a formula that works. And even last season, people think that City kind of stormed away to the first division title. That's not 100% true. They drew against Longford and they lost to Galway United. He admitted he needed to make changes. He swapped to a 3-5-2 and they won, I think they went on a 22 game unbeaten run. So Healy has, I suppose, faced issues in terms of coaching and management, and he's obviously adapted to them. He needed to change the system last year, got results. like even his original appointment kind of like emotionally centered the club. It was a very bad 6 months. A lot of people who were close to the club passed away. He's a club legend down in Cork, and ask anyone associated with the club. And like he knows how to carry himself. He's an ideal ambassador for the club. So it was quite surprising because he's been through and seen the club through so many difficult times.
Yeah, Macdara, it's funny how we recorded, I think it was the Tuesday last week. We were chatting about obviously Colin Healy and possibly going the next man under pressure. And we kind of both were in agreement that we think he'll be fine. They've just come up. It's the first division squad mostly. Less than 24 hours later, Paul wasn't even released and he resigned. Like, so it's like yourself, I was surprised by it.
Yeah, I had to listen back to see how foolish I sounded, and it was I said he'd earned a bit of time. I think you came back and replied to me when I put that on Twitter. Well, we got 24 hours anyway. But yeah, I sometimes listen to one of the NPR podcasts, politics podcasts, and they always date stamp. This podcast was recorded at, so things may have changed by the time you listen to it. But that was exactly the case. We were only just talking about Tim Clancy's departure from St. Pat's in the podcast, and then Colin Healy was gone. But then also the timing with it, because of course the story was that Liam Buckley was coming in as Dylan, what's the correct term? Is it director of football, sporting director? What's the term that they're using? Director. Sporting director, yeah. And like different, you look around the clubs, you look at, I suppose, the role. You've got Brian Gartland in that kind of role at Dundalk. You've got Pat Fenlon at Bohemians. Steve McPhail's done that role at Shamrock Rovers for quite some time. At Pat's, you've Alan Matthews involved and Gerard Bryan involved, where you've people, I'm going to call them football people in that are just relieving a bit of the pressure from the manager or head coach, whatever the person who's ultimately responsible. And there's others around, if we're talking about Waterford, they've got now Alan Reynolds working in alongside, okay, that's assistant manager, maybe slightly different. But I think, the story broke that Liam Buckley was taking on this role, and then by the end of the day, Colin Healy was gone. And yeah, it did seem a bit strange. But the worry is for Cork City, and we said it last week, it's about consolidating in the Premier Division. But UCD are still hanging in behind them. They're picking up the odd results here and there, and the teams above Cork City at the minute, who are Cork City going to jump ahead to get out of that relegation playoff? Are they going to catch Drogheda United? Are they going to catch Sligo Rovers? Are they going to catch Shelbourne? Probably not. So it's a really, really big decision to bring in. What manager do they bring in? Because that manager needs to hit the ground running, and as Dylan's pointed through, like Colin Healy had come through the club, so maybe a person you might appoint within the club, that was him. So you're looking to presumably go outside the club. Do you go outside the league? So it's a really big decision for the new owner.
It's an interesting.
Sorry, Dan, go ahead, one.
It's an interesting thing because the last three permanent Cork City managers were all former players. There was John Caulfield, Neil Fenn, and Colin Healy. Before that, it was Tommy Dunn, and he was assistant manager at the Paul Doolan back in 2009. And Paul Doolan was a strange one because but a lot of people associated with the club probably wouldn't be used to like a Dublin manager coming down, because considering there's such a strong history with like Noel O'Malley in the 90s. Roddy Collins did manage City but never actually managed the game because the club got liquidated before he could manage a game.
I think you got lucky there, Dylan, maybe.
Yeah.
No need for that. Come on. Stick on task. Come on.
It was back in 2010. Roddy Collins took over in January, I think. And then there was the whole High Court stuff back with and all that played out. So Roddy Collins didn't manage. But since Tommy Dunn, it's been a straight run of Cork managers. Even interim managers always tend to be former players, like John Cotter, former player with Cork City when he was interim. There was also Frank Kelleher, former player with Cork City. So it's been kept very much in-house for a couple of years. So are you going to pay for someone to move down to Cork? It's an interesting situation given the club's history.
Just in terms of, just before we move on, Colin Healy, I'd be interested, what's the vibe, or what was the reaction to Colin Healy departing? Was it from the fan base, sorry? Was it a case of they thought it was the right decision when to move on, or was there a split maybe of people sympathetic, maybe think he should have more time, or what was the overall kind of the general viewpoint of the fans?
I think it was about 80-20, if I had to kind of try to put a figure on it, where about 80% of people kind of genuinely felt bad for Colin because he wasn't sacked, he did resign, he felt this was the best decision for him by resigning, kind of thing. But then there was a small contingent on Twitter who were saying, Healy out, he's not up to the job. So you do have that small voice, but like, you need to understand where the club is at the moment. It is a first division squad that was promoted. Like, the first division is it's a different ball game. I personally think that the Premier Division is a lot more professional in the last 3 years, considering the money that's gone into it. But that's another conversation, another argument. So in Cork, there's a lot of people who understand the club situation of like, look, we need to get to the transfer window, we need to bring in players. That's kind of the general consensus from them. But then on the other hand, you have some people saying, oh, Colin Healy isn't up to standard and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it's very knee-jerk reaction because, as you know yourselves in Cork, it's all or nothing in terms of how things are perceived. Like, I remember I was at Richmond Park for the first game of the 2019 season. Cork City lost 1-0 and people were chanting for John Coughlan to be sacked. So I would take a lot of that kind of conversation with a grain of salt. Okay.
We mentioned Liam Buckley. I'll revert back to that point. What was your own initial thoughts of Liam Buckley getting the sporting directing job, and B, what was the reaction of the fans of Buckley coming in? An outsider, like as you put it.
Like, people were quite positive because, like, again, he's won 2 league titles with Pats. He won everything with Pats over that spell. And my original thought was, how similar is this to his job he had with Sporting Fingal? I know this is quite a long time ago, but like, if it's the same job, he did a very good job with Fingal. Things went against him that wasn't in his control, like, which is a whole other conversation. And I did ask him about it, and he was like, look, he explained his role with Fingal. Didn't really go into too much detail with it. And I understand it could be a very sore spot in his life. But the response has been quite positive because, again, he's not just, let's say, a League of Ireland person, but he's someone who's huge experience in the league. But he's got experience of all aspects of Irish football. Like, he's involved. He went to Sligo. He was involved in Pats. He was involved in Rovers as well. Macdara, am I right?
Yeah, and he managed the club at a difficult time financially, and actually did very well and qualified the team for Europe. So he played for the club back in the day. But no, I'd view him as a successful manager at Shamrock Rovers because of the difficult time the club was at the time when he was manager.
Yeah, and it's interesting because with Liam Buckley, I suppose, I don't know whether it comes down to age or whatnot, but a lot of the commentary maybe about Liam Buckley is that the game is maybe passing him by or whatever the case may be. So it's interesting that, going into the sporting director role, he'll have a direct influence maybe on the style of play or on the players coming in. Be interesting how that plays out. Just lastly on Cork, we move on, Dylan. In terms of the bookies' favourites or rumours around the grounds, is there any person linked to the job heavily, or is there a fan favourite that they'd like to bring in? Like you mentioned, local guys have always been kind of the go-to people to get the job. Is there any name being mentioned?
Like, you hear names, but a lot of it's pub talk that there's no actual kind of weight on them. Like, you always hear stories. Like, I remember some fans want this manager who's in charge of Premier Rovers, and Mickey Mellon, I think. I heard some people mention his name. Some people are saying Ian Barclough. Someone suggested David Myler should try and get it, but it's all pub talk at this stage. They only put up today on social media that they are hiring for a first team manager. So it's very, very soon to speculate. Like, I saw Pep Guardiola inside town about 2 hours ago, so I'm just speculating. Like, it's all pure speculation at the moment at this stage.
Has the Roy Keane rumour started yet, lads? Has that got going on Twitter?
About 15 minutes into the Pats game, people said it in the press box.
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Roy Keane. Joe, we might just touch on Pats briefly. Macdara. Obviously, we spoke a good bit about them last week, so we won't be going with Pats. But was in my eyes a big win for them going down to Cork. A game I view that they had to win, as they needed a reaction to 3 losses on the bounce. Tim Clancy obviously left the club. His assistant manager John Days, interim manager. I felt, regardless of performance, 3 points was paramount there, and they got the job done.
Yeah, it was. Like, it's a really important win. Like, the whole thing about Tim Clancy leaving was that, when we talked about it last week, the Pats were kind of streaky. They were winning in clumps, they were losing in clumps. But overall, like, that win pushed them up to 20 points. 10 points clear of the relegation playoff. But it's really tight at the minute. Like, Dundalk are just 2 points ahead of them. They're in fourth. So yeah, it was an impressive win because you're kind of going down and you're kind of wondering, okay, Daly was in charge. He's very familiar with the players, but it's really difficult particularly I suppose when a manager kind of so soon. What was it? Was like the Tuesday morning, I think, was it that he was gone, and then they were playing Friday. So so it was a very good win, and I had a look at the goals. You kind of mentioned the Chris Forrester pass for the winning goal was really impressive as well.
Yeah, well, a couple of bright sparks in the game was Conor Carty getting his first goal of the club. Adam Murphy, 18. Yeah, his first goal of the club. So
because
there's your that's the good news story coming out of the game.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of talk about Adam Murphy because I'd been at the last Tim Clancy game and I was looking forward to seeing Adam Murphy. Didn't play particularly well that day. And that can happen with any player, particularly a young player. So, there's been much discussion of just about how good, what the potential that Murphy is, another very young, very talented player that Pats have within their squad.
Yeah, and the conveyor belt, the pass players coming through, as we said, has been very impressive the last 3 or 4 years. Look, I suppose moving on to the big game of the weekend, the game live on TV in RT2, the Dublin Derby, up in Tata Stadium, full house. Didn't see the game live, watched the back. Macdara, you were at the game. I think the atmosphere was brilliant from the TV. I think that's the most important. But my own personal, I suppose, opinion, watching the match, I thought the game was a bit iffy, was okay. It was a kind of maybe a typical Derby game, kind of, as both teams had spells, and maybe Rovers' quality showed at the end.
Yeah, Rovers started off really well actually and dominated the kind of the opening, maybe the first half of the first half, if I can say that. But Bows came back into the game, and we I'd spoken a little bit about how good Sligo Rovers were the previous week and how they had more of the ball than Rovers did. But actually, Bows were the same. They had more possession. They had 52% possession across the game, and they had a couple of chances. There was one good save from Leon Poles, who's going to be in goal for the short to medium term anyway at Rovers. They've called about the next few weeks. He pulled off a really good save in the first half. They had a really good chance. Bows laid on. It was kind of a ball across the box. I think it was Declan McDade was coming into the back post, and Ronan Finn, I think, did enough to put him off. But I think Rovers deserved it. I had a quick look at the XG before, and Rovers were, what was it? It was 2.4 and Bows were 0.4, but it's probably not telling the story. People will have seen probably the goals from the game. Bit of discussion. Trevor Clark opened the scoring. It was his third goal in the last 4 games. Whether he was offside, it was a very tight call. If you go back and you have a look at it, the Bows defender is up challenging in the air for a Johnny Kenny header that Kenny puts on target that Talbot saves. So very, very tight call. Could have gone either way. Didn't go Bohemian's way. And then the big debate was about the penalty. I think it was Dan Cleary getting back late enough in the game as Jonathan Afolabi was going through, and certainly when I watched it in real time, I thought it was a penalty. When I looked back on the television, it looked on the replay, it looked like a penalty. There was one angle that that was doing the rounds, a GIF going back and forth, like the JFK Kevin Costner Zapruder film. Anyway, whether Cleary got a very small touch on it, but Rob Hennessy was the referee, and he made the call on the night. It was very tight. Looked like it probably was the wrong call. Then whether it's a red card, I'm a bit unsure about what the rules are. Certainly Cleary was making a genuine effort to go for the ball, so I don't know whether if you award a penalty and whether it was going to be a red card. But of course, Leon Poles had saved a penalty the previous week, but obviously guilt-aid chance if Bohemians had got a penalty at that stage. And then late on, then Rory Gaffney came on to get the second goal and put it out. Like Declan Devine, I thought he was very honest afterwards. He was saying it was a penalty. He said he thought it was that Trevor Clark was offside, but then he went on to kind of say, his main disappointment was that his team hadn't stopped the cross coming in from the right-hand side into Johnny Kenny for the header that Clark bundled over, and that, again, they didn't stop the cross coming in that Rory Gaffney came in at the back post to put away. But Bohemians played very well, and will feel very unlucky to get I think it's a very different 2-0 result from the game in Denman Park, where Bows had a couple of early chances, but after that Rovers completely dominated. It certainly was a very different game in Tallaght Stadium. And just on the atmosphere, I thought the atmosphere was excellent. It was the crowd was 7,864. That's the second biggest attendance ever in Tallaght Stadium. So it was the biggest ever game for a competitive game, league game, European game, whatever. So the only bigger, for some reason, I had a look at it today. For some reason, I thought the crowd at the Tottenham Hotspur game back in the Europa League in 2011 was bigger, but that was only 7,500. So it's only the Real Madrid friendly match in 2009, the first season of Tallaght Stadium. That was 10,915. They put in quite big temporary stands all along the pitch and behind the goal, and that's the only biggest crowd there. And whenever that new stand is open, be it that kind of August or maybe September, that'll be your biggest crowd then. But yeah, no, I think it was a really good. I think it was a decent game. Atmosphere good. Plenty of smoke. The displays before the game, both from the Bows fans and the Rovers fans, in terms of kind of the T-phone flag displays were pretty impressive. And I think much talk about sport on RTE and GA Go and all that kind of stuff, but I think the licensed player got good value for if they were tuning in to watch that game on Friday evening.
Was Alan Manus playing that game actually in 2009 against Madrid?
No, it was Barry Murphy played in goal in that one.
Okay, I was thinking he might have been the only player still playing for the club at that game, because there's no player left, is there?
No, because Ronan Finn joined the next year. You put me on the spot here, but no, I don't think there's anyone now. Yeah, just thought I'd quiz you. Now, you mentioned a couple of points there. I was first you mentioned Trevor Clark and his goal scoring form. That's obviously the main highlight of it. But I think his overall play has been excellent. Like I saw him playing Pats the week 4 or 2 weeks ago, I think was it, against Rovers. He was excellent. He's become a real key player for Rovers on the left hand side. Yeah, I think particularly in the last few weeks, he'd spoken a little bit about how he was disappointed when he got his opening first goal of the season, which came against Pats. He was disappointed that he hadn't scored before that. But I think he's really come into form in the last few weeks, because he scored against Sligo as well. But there's a lot of it's a difficult position playing wing back at Shamrock Rovers. He's having to get up and back. I think I wouldn't say he's grown into the role, but he had a difficult time in the last year at Bristol Rovers. People probably remember kind of the comments. Joey Barton, the manager, was pretty. He really had a go at him, which is something you don't really see. And he's come back to Shamrock Rovers, and a club that he obviously knows well, haven't played for a number of years. And I think he certainly looks to be really enjoying his football. He's back playing week in, week out. And interesting, like Stephen Bradley talked after the game, he said that actually Clark felt ill at half time, and he asked him just to give him another kind of 10 minutes, and he went back out and he scored the opening goal. So he didn't last too much longer, I think, after that. I think he really looks to be enjoying his football. He did enjoy celebrating the goal. He did the old Cup Ears tour. He obviously getting a bit of grief off the Bohemians fans, so he did run that way when he got the goal. So he certainly enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I think if I can remember rightly, the Joey Barton comment was something along the lines of, "We made a mistake renewing his contract. We should let him go." I think it was something on his lines.
Yeah, it was. He talked him up just before the transfer window closed, and they didn't let him go out or whatever it was. And then the comments were pretty soon after that, and you were like, "Well, what the hell can you do?" Like he can't go anywhere then at that point, So. So he is only on loan at Shamrock Rovers, but it's a season-long loan. But so it remains to be seen. Rovers have brought players back in on loan before, with the view then that they would just stay out of the club. So I'm a little bit unsure what the situation is.
The Graham Burke one kind of screams to mind there. But look, I suppose regardless of what Barton says, like, you can watch in your own eyes what a great footballer he is. I remember before he left, and he's still the same player. He's just getting better with age, and you see his true quality showed the last few weeks. So Joey Barton can leave his comments at the door.
Yeah.
Just, I suppose, I'll be dealing on this one. We mentioned the Afolabi and the penalty that probably should have been given, or in my eyes, definitely should have been given. Dylan, I know we were just trying off air. You've seen the penalty decision yourself. What's your overall thoughts on it?
I think it was a penalty because Afolabi did technically get clipped inside the box, and I imagine if he did go down, like, that would probably be given as a penalty. But like you see time and time again in the league, was it like Rory Keating went over against Shelbourne and St. Patrick's Day in Turner's Cross and a penalty wasn't given. There was the Bohemians incident last Friday in Tata Stadium where it's a bit like, look, if a player is pushed over, bundled over in a box, it's a textbook penalty. Like in my book, this is my own opinion on it, so it's a bit like, if that's not a penalty, then what is? But like, I know now this might be a separate conversation, but the invention of Watch LOI has done wonders for conversations about refereeing in Ireland, where, like, because now people are actually seeing that, look, we need to have a constructive conversation about referees and the fact that, is there more training needs to be done? I don't know. Do we need a more professional industry for referees? But when you see things like the incident last Friday in Turner's Cross, it more fits into a broader theme that's emerging, especially with more cameras at games because of Watch LOI or LOI TV.
Yeah, and I think, look, I don't think we want to get bogged down, I suppose, on the discussion of referees and that kind of thing. I know I feel Macdara's eyes rolling in the back of his head as we're discussing this. But I'll rephrase the question rather, is Alan Cawley after the game was very critical of Rob Hennessy. I mean, very critical.
Yeah, so
so I wonder though that, look, I'm not a referee. None of us are referees. I think the majority of people listening to this podcast are not referees. Is there a case that, constructive criticism, of course, and conversations, as Dylan mentioned there, are important. I think there's also an element that we have to be careful in terms of the language we use and kind of how the inflammatory tone towards referees as well needs to be maybe brought down a little bit too.
Yeah, there was, the social media, there was plenty of Bohemians fans who were pretty much up in arms with Rob Hennessy's decisions. Hennessy would be viewed as one of the best referees. You know, he does a number of European games. He's UEFA qualified. You know, the likes of Paul McLaughlin, Rob Harvey are all referees that are also on UEFA's books as well. I think, Dylan, you make a good point actually about LOI TV. Obviously, that the Friday night's Dublin Derby was on RTE, so they had the multiple cameras. They had the low camera down, but even on LOI TV, you get, certainly for the Premier Division, you're getting two cameras. You're able to scroll back and forth and have a look. But you know, it comes back to the referee has one look at it. Like, we don't have VAR in the league. I don't think we probably ever will in terms of the amount of money and whatever. But, like, you know, you look back at it, and you know, all the replays look that, okay, that's a foul, bar one of them, and then it's like, you know, people are probably saying I'd be looking at it through green tinted eyes. But when I watched it on the night, I was very surprised he didn't point to the penalty spot. And I think it's a mistake. I don't think certainly I don't think it's anything more than that. As to what else you can do, I don't know. They'll be looking back at the clips and reviewing themselves, but there's never any discussions with the referee. They're not coming out and saying, making any kind of statements as to what's going to happen. And we don't have we're not BT Sport, where we have a referee in the commentary box that can kind of have a look and maybe interpret it, you know.
Well, to be fair though, again, opinion on this obviously, but many times I watch BT Sport, I don't know about you guys, and there's a game on, and the referee, I forget his name, I won't give a name.
It's Walton, isn't it?
Him, yeah. And many times has something happened and it's clearly obvious, and he just completely goes to the referee, and you're like, why are you there to give an opinion? Or Dermot Gallagher as well, sometimes on Sky Sports on Monday, when he's giving an opinion, and he'll never say it's wrong. He'll always say, I see his opinion or something. So let's not bring that into the league, because it's a complete waste of time. Look, I think we can park that. My only thing actually funny enough about the whole thing was, if you look maybe from Rob Hennessy's angle, he might have thought there was a nick on the ball. I mean, as you said, around from one of the angles, looked like clearly got a nick on the ball, but the linesman has the best view of it. He's the one probably with the best view. He can clearly see that clearly comes straight off a labby without touching the ball. So again, the whole point of
and Trevor Clark's goal again. It's the assistant referee looking across, who certainly seemed to be in a decent position. It wasn't a breakaway goal where the linesman's having to track back and is slightly behind the play. That was a cross whipped in. And it could go either way, and it went to the benefit of the home team on this occasion.
Just before we move on, our reporter Oisin Langan for Extra Time called up with Gary O'Neill after the game to get his thoughts on the match. So let's have a listen.
Well, I'm joined on the side of the pitch in Tallaght Stadium by Gary O'Neill. Gary, a 2-0 win against Bohemians. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? A victory in the Dublin Derby in front of a record league attendance at your home stadium.
Definitely, it's a sweet one for sure. It's same 3 points that we got for beating Sligo last week. Same 3 points.
That's not though. Come on,
it's the same 3 points. But listen, it's as a Rovers player now for the last 4 years, and you buy into the culture of Shamrock Rovers. There's no sweeter one. It's such a sweet one to win. It's a bitter one to lose, but there's no sweeter one to win. So naturally enough, the changing room is bouncing them down. We're delighted.
Try and explain to me what it's like on the pitch in a Dublin Derby, in the thick of it out there, as the manager walks by and hits you a slap.
It depends really. There's horses for courses. Obviously, some people are different. I'd be quite a calm one now in terms of approaching games. Games wouldn't be things that I really get nervous for, especially I see the same faces so often in this league. It's not as if you're going into the unknown of a European game or something, but everything that comes with the game is just different in the League of Ireland. The fans obviously there's a serious hatred. It's not anything that's put on. There is a hatred between the two clubs, the two supporters, and it's like I say, there's no better one to win and no worse one to lose. But it's on the pitch, it's frantic. It's quite frantic. It's different than any other game. There's no real structure to the game. At times it can be quite like a basketball game, but I thought we controlled it at times, especially in the second half, very well tonight.
Trevor Clark with the first goal, the second one scored by Gaffney. That first goal just came from kind of a relentless attack and not stepping back.
Exactly, and that's, I think, when we're at our best, when we put our front foot forward, when we control transition in games, because I think Bows are a very good team in transition. They have some fast players out wide and can really hurt you if you don't respect them. So we try to play on the front foot, try to squeeze the game into Bows' half as much as we possibly could. And I think Neil Ferrugia done brilliantly for the 2 goals, and that's what we need to do, is squeeze the game and keep the ball in their half.
You mentioned out there it's quite frantic. That's the same for every game, not just the Dublin Derby. But you always look so calm. You always look like you've got an extra few seconds on the ball. Why is that, and how have you managed to get to that kind of zen-like state in a less than zen environment?
Like I say, it's probably my personality. To be honest with you, I'm quite a relaxed, reserved person. I keep myself to myself at the best of times. I live at home with my partner, and there's no place I'd rather be than home. I'm quite a calm person. I don't do much outside of football, and I take that kind of onto the pitch. Some people can get very worked up in the moment, and since I've come to the club, really, it's always been the same. I remember my first Dublin Derby here. A few people said to me after the game, you looked like you'd played in them for 10 years. It's just my personality. I do a lot of work, obviously, with the club and stuff in terms of taking positions where I'm going to be in control of the game. I'd like to do it a bit more, to be honest. I think I can do it a bit more, but to answer your question, I think it's just probably my personality more than anything else.
It's a great time to be in the League of Ireland, isn't it? A record attendance for the league tonight. There seems to be more coverage than I can ever remember, and just the product seems to be really good, and it's especially good here in this place. This place is amazing.
I'd say there's nothing like it. I think teams probably love playing here, which goes against us at times, because the pitch is obviously like a snooker table, and the stadium's amazing. But like you say, I think this year more than ever, there's a serious competition in the league. I think teams will, like you see, teams are beating each other left, right and centre. There's no easy game at the minute. But it's a great time to be in the league. Even Bows are flying. Obviously we're 1 point behind them now, but an unbelievable start to the season, which is great for the league as well. A good Bows makes the league better, to be honest. The Rovers fans might not want me saying that, but it makes the league a better place, because we want to be playing in these type of games every week.
I'm not trying to move you down there, but how good is it as a Kerry man to see Kerry in the League of Ireland as a senior entity?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Keep an eye on them every week, to be honest, because we have a young lad, Keane Barrett, down there on loan. He's playing obviously down there, and I'll be very close with Keane and his dad. I know his dad very well, so keep an eye on him. Obviously things are going against them at the minute. I think they probably believe their luck is out, but I've no doubt that they'll be they'll pick up their first win soon, and I think from then they can put that kind of ghost behind them, because I think it's probably hanging over them at the minute. They're probably trying too hard to get their first win, but I think once the first win comes, they'll be motoring from there.
Gary, thank you.
And just as we were chatting here, timestamping the podcast as we're recording here live, it's just a bit of breaking news come through that the Glanmire Centre of Excellence project has been cancelled and scrapped. Didn't know the news was broke, but what's your initial thoughts on this?
Disappointment, to be perfectly honest. Genuine disappointment. I read it in the Irish Examiner there, the project isn't going ahead, and it's quite disappointing, because if you look at Dublin and you have, let's say, the facility that UCD operate with, I know Cork City and UCC have the Mardyke, you Shamrock Rovers and what the work that's done there in Roadstone, which is fantastic. But then if you go to the south of Ireland, we don't, I say we as collectively, there isn't the facility to match that. Whereas if you look at, let's say, the United Kingdom, or I'm going to use an example in Germany, after the 2002 World Cup, the German FA decided they needed to rebuild their football infrastructure in the country. So they opened up these centre of excellences around the whole country. There's like 180 or something opened up. And these were set up to kind of, get people to play football and all that. The same thing was done in Iceland, which led to the team from Euro 2016. But they set up these centres of excellence around the country so people can play football. No, we don't have that. So if we're concentrating our football infrastructure in Dublin, it's everyone is worse off for it. And this isn't trying to feed into any stereotypes of Cork and Dublin and all that. It isn't. But we need to think nationally when it comes to Irish football and Irish football infrastructure. We need to have a centre of excellence in Cork. We need to have a centre of excellence in Galway. Even what we need in Cork as well is more like AstroTurf pitches and places where games can be played like this. And I know this might be slightly off topic, but Rockmount, I probably need very little introduction over Roykeen. They couldn't play a home game for 3 months this year because their pitches were so waterlogged. If you have a facility like this, like the Centre of Excellence, you can actually have a place to play football. You don't have to, keep postponing things and have a massive backlog of fixtures for the last 3 months of the season. So it is disappointing to hear about it, because if you look at, like, Cork City are supposed to train there. I was out in Bishopstown last week. Bishopstown was good, but again, that was built in the 90s. And we can't focus our football infrastructure on just one part of the country. Anyway, that's my bit finished.
Yeah, if I can come in here, maybe it's also worth mentioning it from a Dublin point of view. There's also Abbottstown, and certainly League of Ireland clubs have used it in the past in pre-season to play, essentially behind closed doors matches. So there's facilities out there, there's pitches out there that they can use. It's not a trek for any of the Dublin clubs to be playing. Shelbourne would have played a number of games, I know, out there as well. So it is. It's disappointing it's not going ahead. The key is that to put some infrastructure in place. Like the FA have kind of decided they don't really, it's the emphasis has been put on the clubs to develop their own facilities, and then we currently have 20. We've 20 league clubs. Is that really the right way of doing it? Should there be, and that's why this was, I suppose, the benefit that there'd be a centre of excellence outside of Dublin as well. So, but it's a function of what money is available and were they going to continue putting money in at this stage, and obviously made a decision that they're not going to.
Yeah, and I think that's a totally different conversation, wider debate there we could have. We could definitely have 2 hours talking about the issues in Irish football. And I think I'd echo rather what Dylan said in terms of waterlock pitches. Look, anyone knows him heavily involved with amateur football. That's very frustrating. We're blessed. We have a state-of-the-art actual pitch. Very lucky to get our games on, but other clubs don't have changing rooms. They're renting the council pitches. They have to be Heston at the council, Park Rangers who allow the games on and off. And this is obviously not just a Dublin or Leinster issue, it's a nationwide issue. You mentioned Rockmount there, haven't made a home game something 3 months due to waterlogged pitches. So this is just, again, another, I suppose, disappointment, I think is the best word to use, like that this isn't going ahead. Again, it would have been a great asset for the community in Cork and the greater community there to use the facility. But look, It's as I said, it's probably for a different day and a different discussion. Just a quick run through the SSC Electricity League results the weekend. Starting with the Parent Division, Shelburne 1, UCD 0, Drogheda United 0, Derry City 1, Cork City 2, Pats 3, as mentioned before, and likewise with Shamrock Rovers 2, Bows 0, and the Saturday night game was Dundalk 1, Sligo Rovers 0. In the First Division, we had Wexford 1, Bray 1, Treat United 2, Athlone 1, Cove Ramblers 4, Finn Harps 1, Kerry 2, Longford 3, and Galway United 2, Waterford 1 at the top of the table clash. And finally, in the Women's Parent Division, we have Bows 1, Sligo Rovers 0, DLR Waves 0, Wexford Youths 2, Galway United 1, Treat United 0, Shamrock Rovers 5, Cork City 0, and Athlone Town 0, Shelburne 1. Mark, I might bring you in here really quick. Shamrock Rovers are going nice in the first seed in the Women's Parent Division.
Yeah, playing against Cork City side who haven't been doing too well this season. I was at the game, and really the player who stood out to me was Savannah McCarthy, who was very good on the night and really looked like the Irish international player that she is, and gave the Cork City team quite a bit of difficulty. There was a couple of nutmegs as well, a couple of lovely through balls, and a bit more. There were a number of players, and I was having a look at some of the data, the Berts. There's a lot of young players across both of the teams, but certainly you looked at the Shamrock Rovers players, and the players are more physically developed. There was a lot of kind of smaller players in the Cork City side, and that can be to do with age and development as well. But Cork City started well, but Rovers kind of got into top gear in the second half, and piled on a good few goals. But yeah, Shamrock Rovers are unbeaten, but it's very competitive between the teams, and Peamount United are still going very strongly. Like you've Wexford, probably at loan maybe is the one that maybe is surprised they haven't been as good, and they'll host Shamrock Rovers now this Saturday evening.
We need to get Paul back on. We need to get Paul back on top of Peas, don't we?
Yeah.
Coming up next, we have Ronan Coughlan, so stay tuned.
And there's kind of a lot of grumbling about maybe we don't have enough Premier League players, but in terms of the Championship, but
what's the point in grumbling about it?
But the step
I can't hold about it, can I? If they're not playing the Premier, what's the point of me grumbling?
The step up to international football in the Championship, is it easily managed?
Well, I tell you back there when we played in 2002, what's the point of me grumbling? We had lads who were all at the bottom of the Premier, real scrapping away, Kinse and Matty Holland, and I had Gary Breen, who hadn't even got a club. What's the point of me grumbling? So I don't subscribe to that, you just... Whatever it is, whatever I've got, I'll get them together and make the best of them and try and make sure we qualify. Grumbling is not one of the things I do.
You can subscribe to each new episode of the ExtraTime.ie Sportscast on iTunes. Please give a rating or add a comment there to let us know your views.
What's the point of grumbling?
Welcome back to the second half. Macdara's been substituted, but delighted to welcome on Donal Ryan. Donal, how are you?
Good, Luke. Thanks very much for having me on again.
Yeah, and we're delighted to have Waterford nice striker Ronan Coughlan with us now. Ronan, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks, lads, for having me.
I suppose, sorry to start on a sour note, but I suppose the most recent game was the Galway match, top of the table clash itself. Unlucky 2 in defeat the weekend.
Yeah, it was a tough game. I don't know if you watched it, but it was a tough game. Look, they're a good side. Like you said, it's kind of like a typical kind of John Caulfield team. It was a physical game, high energy, very demanding, very direct. But that's part of football, obviously, and you have to stand up and be able to win battles, win duels. Something that we spoke about going into the game. Look, it was disappointing the way the result panned out in the end. But like I said, it's a long season, and there's plenty of games to play for. I think we're just kind of focusing now on our next game and just take one step at a time.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting season for Waterford, obviously, in terms of for the season, a lot of hype between the players coming in, yourself, other players coming in the door. Maybe didn't go exactly to start. I had hoped, obviously Danny Searle leaving. That wasn't the plan, I guess, to start the year.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of talk around ourselves at the start of the season. I joined late, to be fair. I joined literally at the last week in pre-season. So I wasn't kind of too involved at the start. so I wasn't, to be honest, paying too much attention to it. And then, you hear stuff as you come in, and the boys knew it wasn't a good enough start, and I think the boys, to be fair, took that on the chin themselves. Like, the standards from themselves weren't good enough, and the performances weren't good enough, and we dropped points where we shouldn't be dropping points. And yeah, look, we're sitting now where we are, second in the table, a few points off. Probably is back to the start that we had. But like we said, I think we spoke as a group, as players, and it wasn't good enough from the players. But look, these things happen. We went on a good run there recently, so please God, we can get back to that now.
Yeah, and I suppose the catalyst for that run was the income manager, Keith Long, and we're just chatting off air. He's made a big impact since coming in the door.
Yeah, huge impact. Himself and Alan Reynolds, like we said, 2 highly experienced managers in the league, and they've been around a while. They know the league inside out. And like I said, two top managers, both different, but both very, very good, very effective. And yeah, they've made a huge improvement, if I'm honest, in the training, in the standards, in and around the workplace, little details, And yeah, no, I'm delighted that they're in now, and I'm really enjoying working under them.
Is that the key difference then with Keith Long and Alan Reynolds coming in? It's just those little details for matches?
Yeah, I would say it's just a little bit of details here and there. I mean, it's never as bad as it seems. Situations, and they're probably never as good as they seem, is kind of like the way to look at it. So I don't think it was as bad as it was or anything like that previously. But I think, obviously, you know how football is when a new manager comes in. It gives it the place a shake up, and then everyone gets a reaction. But I suppose we did have a good reaction when they came in, and we won 6 straight, and we scored a lot of goals. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's just two top managers, and they know the league inside out. I don't think you can honestly ask for two better managers to come in and work for Waterford. I think it shows the intent of what the club wants and where the club is aiming to be. So yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, you mentioned goals, and I suppose that's where you come into the argument here, just in terms of yourself. Must delight how your season's gone so far.
Yeah, no, I'll be lying if I said I wasn't. It's been a great start for myself with the numbers kind of going in and the amount of goals I've scored. It got off slow for myself. Like I said, I wasn't there for pre-season. I literally joined about a week before the season started. So I had to kind of bide my time and, just build up my fitness and work away on my own. I think then I knew once I'd get a chance that I would, prove why I'm there and why I'm here. And yeah, no, obviously it's been a whirlwind, to be honest. Last month, I think I scored 11 in the 5 games, which was something I've never done before. So like I said, it was just a whirlwind, and we were playing Monday, Friday, and the numbers just kept going up and up and up. So yeah, it was a great month for myself, and we were winning as well, obviously, most importantly. So we were winning and I was scoring, and it seemed to have a great effect on, the results. So yeah, it was good.
Just in terms of your own game, I suppose, obviously, as mentioned, being a Pats fan, I've seen you play over the years. You've played maybe 10 out wide, up front. Is there, this season, are you playing more to the focal number 9 and get into the box more, or where's been your position this season? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I've, like you said, growing up when I was playing over abroad in the UK, I was a number 10. I wouldn't say midfielder now, but a number 10. And then, I could play in a number of positions, quite versatile. And then it's kind of funny how it works out. I came back to the League of Ireland, still as a number 10. And then I think I played out wide when I first came back to the league at Bray. And funny how football works. Someone just got injured up front. I don't know if it was Aaron Green at the time. I think it could have been Aaron Green at the time when he was at Bray with me. He got injured. I just went up front. I was put up there and did well. And then started playing up front and got signed to Cork as a striker. So then I'm playing at Cork now as a striker. And then so on. So I've been more or less a striker then, played there, and then Sligo and then Pats. But I've kind of been used to, getting on the ball and setting stuff up. So that was kind of more my style, was kind of dropping in. And like I spoke to someone recently and they were saying, I've seen your style a lot, and it seems to have been box to box, really good, holding up, but probably in the box it had been letting me down numbers wise. So I've, like you said, obviously you've probably seen me play a while. I've seen you as you're a Pats fan, but I've done a lot of work. I started working with my own kind of analyst, and he's like a psychologist, and he's helped me an awful lot at just about positioning. And my game's it's completely changed, to be honest with you. Not getting involved as much in the build-up play and letting it happen, and just being in the right areas, and just focusing how much I can affect the game or how much I can hurt the opposition. And I think that's paying dividends this year.
I suppose many strikers said over the years, and it's probably a redundant question, but I'll ask anyway, how important is confidence? Because like when you hear your manager speak only recently to the press, and he's talking about that Ronan Coughlan's a Premier Division player playing in the First Division, like that must, I suppose, give you more of a boost playing, hearing your manager say that. I assume Keith Long's had a huge effect in your game the last 6-8 weeks.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, since minute one, since he's come in, he's been like unbelievable with me, himself and Rennie, obviously. And yeah, like just like you're saying, like little things like the confidence, I suppose, is a big thing for our forwards, whether they like to admit it or not. And yeah, you can go through stages of being confident and not confident, but I think when you know that the manager, backs you and really believes in you and trusts you, I think it can make a huge difference in your performances.
Ronan, you touched on the move to the UK there. Obviously, you had a wee spell at Huddersfield there before you came back to the League of Ireland. What was that like going over at such a young age to a big enough club in Huddersfield?
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I loved every minute of it. I went when I was 16, so just probably after my junior cert. Myself and another Limerick lad, Ty Grine, who's at Derry now. We both went over, lived together. And yeah, I suppose it's a completely different than when I was training at Limerick. I was at Limerick 19s when they were still around. I mean, that was as close as a kind of an academy setup you were going to get in this country. But like it is a completely different approach when you're over there. Like the amount of training, the detail, the gym, everything. And no, I loved every minute of it. And yeah, learned a lot. I think it was always a dream of mine to play in England, and it still is, to be fair. My aim is to kind of go back and see how high of a level I can play at and play at my like full potential. So my dream is obviously to go back and play at the highest standard possible for myself, whether that's abroad or if it's in this country. That's the goal, that's the plan, to play at the highest level. I think any player should have that aspiration and dream. I think if not, then what's the point? So yeah, I'm very open about that, where I want to be playing, and it is across the water eventually, back again, hopefully.
And for you, like, is going back to the UK, would that be like the be all and end all, or would a move abroad somewhere else interest you? I know your brother is currently playing in New Zealand.
Yeah, I know Gav's playing down in New Zealand now, and he's loving it. I mean, preferably the UK, I suppose. My girlfriend's from England, so our plan was kind of to move back to England. She's had enough of Ireland now. No, he hasn't. But that's our plan, is, to move back to the UK. And like I said, most importantly is for myself to play at the highest level I can possibly play at, because it's a short career and there's no point having regrets at the end of it. But I mean, look, I'd be open, I suppose, to moves in Europe if it meant. But it's not something I've really thought about. I probably wouldn't move down to New Zealand or anything like that. But no, I'm more focused, to be honest, on just playing now for Waterford and just moving on this season. And we have team aspirations and individual aspirations, but yeah, that's kind of my main focus at the moment. But long term, I think I would like to be playing back over there.
Was it at Huddersfield you struck up your friendship with Philip Billing?
Yeah, Phil. Yeah, it's funny enough, because when I first went over, I stayed in Diggs when I was on trial. I stayed in Diggs, and there's just a big, long Danish kid that couldn't speak a word of English, but we would play FIFA every night for hours in his Diggs, and we would honestly just go up, train, and come in the next day, come back, play FIFA. I didn't even know him, and then we became great friends over the years. Lived basically in the same apartment building, going in and out training every day. And yeah, I still speak to him today, quite good friendship with him. But yeah, there's where it started.
Just in terms of coming back to Ireland, Ronan, so was it with Huddersfield? Were you just told that contract's not going to be renewed, or was it a case of homesick, or what happened when you came back to Ireland? Was it a case of just needing a club and come back, or what was it?
No, my contract was up. I had I had my last year my last year, to be fair, wasn't a great year for myself. I ended up breaking my leg in a kind of a weirdish way, but I did fracture my tibia at the time and didn't play much football that year. And I was kind of, you know, in my second year as a pro there. So I was about 20, I think I was about 20 years old. And I think, to be honest, I think they were going to the Premier League at the time, and I hadn't really had much of a sniff anyway in the first team. And to be honest, I wouldn't have been at that level like at that time. And yeah, no, I think coming back to the League of Ireland was the best thing for myself. And like I said, I always had the aspiration of going back over whenever it will happen, please God. But yeah, no, there was no homesickness or anything like that, no.
Would it be fair to say that, I know you came back to Bray and then went to Cork for a little spell, but in my eyes, anyway, from a fan of the league, I'd see yourself as you became more established player or a known player in the league playing in Sligo. Yeah,
no, that's fair, yeah. Like I said, I wasn't even playing really in like what people would know me as today anyway, when I first started, when I was at Bray around and then Cork. Didn't play too much, but probably learned a lot of Cork around the kind of the players, because they were obviously top of the league, fighting for the league. Did put a lot of work in myself that off season in Cork, and then went back in pre-season in Cork and still wasn't kind of, you know, knowing I'm going to play every game, because I think that's the most important thing. And then going to Sligo, which was great for myself under Liam Buckley, who was fantastic with me. You know, pretty much played every game I was fit. He really liked me. And yeah, like probably start to establish myself, like you're saying now, in Sligo. And yeah, then, you know, the move to Pats, like you were saying.
And Ronan, just on that season you had with Sligo Rovers, like as a Sligo man myself, I know how well regarded you were amongst the fans there. But how that season was all over the place, because that was the COVID season as well. So like from going from playing 4 games in the league and losing them all, stuck at the bottom of the table, and then the pandemic comes in, and going the whole way then to sealing Europe with the last game of the season. Like, you scored the goal that pretty much wrapped up Europe for Sligo Rovers that year. It just sums up how mental of a season it was.
Yeah, I was only talking to some of the Waterford boys about this recently. Some of the kind of boys that wouldn't have been in the league, like maybe some of the younger lads, and trying to explain to them, like, that COVID year, there was 18 games, and after 4 games, we were literally rock bottom. And wait, it's cut off. Oh, yeah, literally rock bottom after 4 games. Like you were saying, we did have a few injuries like at the back, so I think we weren't great at the back at the start, and then COVID probably the best thing that happened to us, to Sligo at the time, like, weirdly. And then we came back and it was literally a 14-game season sprint. And yeah, like, to be honest, I wouldn't say it was a miracle, but it wasn't far off it. Like, we were literally winning games and going up the table. And then even, like, I remember we were kind of fighting for Waterford at the time for it. I mean, there was a few, I think Pats were in the run for 4th as well. Then Waterford beat us. And then, like, kind of felt like, oh, we're not going to get there. And then it went right down to the last day where Waterford lost up in Finn Harps. I think Bows beat Pat, and then we beat Dundalk away from home, like you were saying. Like, I think we scored early on for kind of a fluke goal. Like, I think, well, Jesse Devers won't say it was a fluke goal, but I'm fairly sure he tried to cross that in and went in over the keeper's head, and we just sat in for the rest of the game. And then later on, I scored a goal that kind of, like you said, sealed it for us. So it was one of those kind of, when you look back on it, you don't realise how bizarre or mental it was, or how much of a crazy game. But yeah, it was something I have fond memories of, definitely, as well, in my time in Sligo.
Yeah, and like Sligo Rovers were really starting to build something while you had your period in the showgrounds, like getting to successive FAI Cup semi-finals as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're dead right. We had a great year. That was the first year I was at Sligo. I remember that. That was an unbelievable occasion, I think for Sligo, and it was great for the fans. I think I don't know how many people were at it, but it was absolutely rammed, the place. And we were unlucky. We were beaten in the last kick of the game. Michael Duffy scored to beat us 1-0. But I think that just kind of shows the potential Sligo Rovers have. You know, it's a great club with a fantastic fan base, and that was kind of the start of it, I suppose. And we kind of built on. But yeah, no, like I said, I look back at Sligo with very fond memories. I really enjoyed my time there.
And obviously, you said yourself, Ron, that you kind of felt like you re-established yourself in the league during your time at Sligo Rovers. When the move to Pats came about, like, were you kind of aware beforehand that your time at Sligo Rovers was coming to an end, or was it something that just kind of came out of the blue and you felt it was an opportunity you couldn't turn down, or how did it come about?
I suppose I spoke to Stevie O'Donnell after my first year in Pats, and he was so keen on me and all that, and I kind of had turned him down the first year. I said, like, I've enjoyed my time at Sligo, like really literally I'm quite like down there. Liam Buckley obviously really liked me, and I was saying I was playing a lot of games and I felt like I was a mainstay in the team, and I felt like I've just kind of gone through a year at Cork not playing. There's no way I'm going to leave Sligo now and not play again somewhere, especially after kind of feeling so low, let's say, at Cork, to the highs in Sligo of playing every week and really enjoying the football. So I stayed on with Sligo, and like I said, I was really enjoying it there. And then after the COVID year, I met him again, and I think he just persuaded me. And I think everything he kind of said, I believed. And to be fair to him, like, Stevie is he's a top coach. I think he's probably best coach maybe in the country, or right up there anyway, in my opinion, probably the best coach I've probably worked with. So he was quality. And like, look, we had success that year. We ended up winning the cup and finishing second. But if it probably wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have left Sligo at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Ron, we were actually just chatting to Lee Desmond last week, and he was kind of asking the same thing about that 21 season. It was a great year. Again, speaking very highly of Steve O'Donnell, I should jump in, I suppose. He's the best manager you worked under until you played under Keith Long. I should probably throw it in as well. But in case he's listening. But but in all seriousness, on that season itself, look, obviously, again, looking at it from a fan point of view, it was a great year. Unfortunately, I watched most of the season behind the closed door. It was on LOI TV. But it felt like there was a great connection with the team that year, with the fans, getting to the cup final. Look, again, we know how great that season was. Were you disappointed in terms of how the second season went, Pats? I know O'Donnell left, change of manager, players coming in and out. Was that a disappointing season last year in terms of maybe was there injuries or not getting to the team? Or what's your own mindset of last season?
Where to start? No, like you said, I suppose, just going back on that, like Lisa was saying, I suppose the first year was so good. Like, yeah, it's such a good group of lads that I still speak to a lot of them, probably still today. Such good fond memories of that year. Only when you look back with Stevie and his assistant Patrick Craig, who was top class as well. Then the second year rolls around. I remember I was only telling lads about it the other day. Like, we won the cup final, and we were out for probably 2 days straight. And on the third day, like, I think the boys were still gone out, but me and my girlfriend were getting a flight to Finland. I literally flew straight to Finland to get operation on my knee. I basically played, I think I damaged the kneecap, but I basically fractured the kneecap after the first round of games. And wasn't obviously the same player for however long was left in the season. I was taking painkillers just every single day. Not painkillers, but diaphenes, which are anti-inflammatories, every single day for 2 a day for literally 6 months. Just to be some sort of use to the end of the season, which in hindsight I wouldn't do that again. But I think, I was probably a bit younger at the time, and I get to the end of the season, have the operation, and then obviously the whole thing with Stevie leaves, and obviously I had such a good time at Pats. I obviously wanted to stay. So I get the operation anyway, and then the next season then is probably the most challenging season I've had in my career, mentally, definitely. So I come back from Finland, obviously knee surgery, and then I guess get straight back into work. Getting fit for the season. I think I'm fit probably around February, March time. I'm kind of training away at the team, doing well and training, not really getting much of a look, not much of a look in, but like not much of a chance either. And I felt like I was definitely well within a shout to be playing, and I wasn't kind of being lied to be honest, left, right, and centre about. I'm not going to go into too much about it, but for promises here and there, and just not getting anything, a bit of disrespect. But then I get kind of a few minutes, and then I tear my hamstring. Then in the game, I think we were 4-0 down or 3-0 down to Derry or something. got thrown on at half time and tore my hamstring in the second half, which sent me back for another 12 weeks. And then I think I got back just after remember we played Miura in the first leg in Inchicore, and then I was back for the second leg, came on. Was it Miura? Yeah, it was Miura the first. Yeah, Miura, and then I got out there in Miura, then came on, did well. Obviously scored a pen. We got through on the penalty shootout, which was great for the club. But there was a lot going on kind of in the background, I suppose. Like, I wasn't happy with kind of how I was being treated and stuff. And then, just kind of, kind of goes on, and without trying to repeat myself, just not being happy and felt disrespected, like, especially, I was training well, all that, doing all the right things, being a good professional, and getting really nowhere with it. But I stayed professional, worked on myself. Then near the end of the season, did a lot of work behind the scenes. Hired like a sprint coach, was doing sprinting. Because I wasn't getting involved in the match days. Then it's basically not being involved. So I think you can take it two ways. You can either try and get better, or you can just sit and sulk. And I just try to use the time then I have to myself. So like I said, I was doing a lot of work on myself. And look, I'd like to think that stuff's paying off now, which is what you kind of have to think about the future and the long term. So it was a disappointing season for myself. Like I said, it was definitely the toughest mentally, 100%. And look, it's not something I want to have to happen again, but it's definitely something you learn from. And to be honest, I wouldn't be probably playing the way I am now if that didn't happen. So in a way, I'm glad, and I think it was all meant to happen for, if you believe in that, or something I believe in anyway, that was just a test, and you have to overcome stuff, and you're going to have to do that throughout your career, and I've done it before. So like I said, I'm happy now, and I'm enjoying my football again, so that's all that matters.
Ronan, given your form at the moment, do you feel like you kind of have a point to prove now, based on what you've just said?
I wouldn't say it's too much of a point to prove to other people. I kind of said this in the past in other views. I'm kind of a point to prove to myself, I suppose, more than anything. I'm not holding grudges or anything like that. It's whatever. I let bygones be bygones and what's happened. But I'm just happy now, and like I said, please God, it just continues now, because I'm really enjoying my football, and that's most important. I'm fit. Like I said, please God, I can stay that way. And hopefully long may it continue now. I keep scoring goals, and most importantly now with Waterford, that we can start getting back on the right track and winning more games, and then hopefully by the end of the season we're thereabouts.
Were you easily convinced to go to Waterford, Ron? I know you said you kind of felt you were done, your time was done at St. Pat's, but even though Waterford was probably an attractive proposition at the time, given the investment that was going on and their ambitious club looking to get back into the Premier Division, but you're still dropping down a division, was it an easy sell for you?
I think I sat down with my agent, and the season that I had the year before, I think the most important thing for myself was just to play games. I think if I play games and stayed fit, that the rest would take care of itself, and I think that's kind of what's happening at the moment. But like I said, please God, now it continues for myself, and we can, like I said, get our objectives by the end of the season and be thereabouts.
Ron, just a quick look ahead then, I suppose, to the remainder of the season. I'd imagine the main objective, I think we all know from the outside looking in, is promotion, and I assume it'll stay the same. Yeah, no, of course. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that's not the objective for the team and the club. You can see by the investments made into the club and the owner, where they want this club to be, and it is a big club. In terms of League of Ireland, it is a big club, and I think it should be in the Premier. Waterford should definitely be in the Premier. They've got a huge fan base down here in Waterford, kind of similar to Sligo in terms of the one club kind of town, city, whatever, and hugely backed by the locals. And it's a great place to play football. And like I said, we're not going to hide away from or shy away from the fact that we're going to try everything we can and to get promoted and get the club back to where it belongs. Ronan, great time. Just one more question for you. Just, I suppose, looking ahead to the game the weekend against Cove, again, 3 points is paramount there.
Yeah, look, we haven't been good enough at home, to be honest with you. We haven't been good enough at home in the RSC, and there's huge numbers turning out at our home games as well, which is probably disappointing for us as players. And we need to be able to be put on performances, and like you're saying, winning home games. You should be making our home ground a fortress where teams don't want to come, and they're afraid, because it's a big pitch and we've got great technical players that can knock the ball about, and we should be able to hurt any team. But for some reason, I suppose we've dropped points at home and we shouldn't have, and it's not acceptable. So yeah, we're looking forward to the game. We played them not long ago, and we beat them up there 3-1. Which is, if anyone knows League of Ireland will know, that's not a great place to go. Not an easy place is the best way to say it. And like you said, looking forward to it now on Friday night. Get back to winning ways, please God.
Ronan, thanks for coming on. We'll chat again soon.
All right, top man. Thanks very much for having me.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland, or tweet us at Extra Time News.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the third half. Just before we announce the fixtures for this weekend in the SSC Electricity League. It was a good chat around there, Donal, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He's had quite an up and down career since he's come back to the League of Ireland. So yeah, fascinating chat with him.
Just before we actually wrap up, Donal, just a quick word on Sligo Rovers. Disappointing defeat there last Saturday against Dundalk, because obviously you weren't on the first part of the show, so just get your thoughts.
Yeah, very disappointing, even in the showgrounds last Saturday night, Luke. And it was a big game from a Sligo Rovers point of view, and from a Dundalk point of view as well. They were only ahead of us by a goal in the table. That was all that was separating the sides going into it. So it was it was a nervy performance from both sides. It took a while for the game to kind of settle down. It was quite scrappy in parts, but Rovers were looking good in stages in the first half, and got in scoreless at half time. More of the same in the second half, really, with Dundalk just kind of kicked on that little bit. And I have to say that I was very unimpressed with the defending for the goal. Keith Ward, smallest player on the pitch, gets a free header inside the 6-yard box. Not really much you can say about that. It was almost like there was quality good ball into the box, but everyone around him just froze, and it was a simple header for him. But the shortest man on the pitch shouldn't be getting a free header inside the 6-yard box when you have the likes of Nando Pineacker, who's captain on the night. He's a big man, Nando. So I'm sure if you look back on it, he'd be disappointed. But can't just single out one person. It was the defence on the whole was pretty bad for the goal, and Dundalk just got away with it by the skin of their teeth. Yeah,
and it goes back to that point I suppose you're making the last couple of weeks about consistency. It must be very frustrating in terms of being a Sligo Rovers fan. Beating UCD, great performance in Shamrock Rovers, unfortunately not getting the result, going to Inchicore, getting the win, and then at home to Dundalk, who are, let's be honest, are struggling this season, and then losing 1-0 again. That lacking consistency is killing Sligo this season.
Yeah, big opportunity, as I said on the pod last week, Luke. 2 home games coming up now, and no doubt John Russell would have been targeting 6 points out of those, with Dundalk last week and Shelburne coming up this week. I know we look ahead to this week's fixtures now in a minute, but yeah, a big opportunity missed to build and to kind of consolidate the place in the top half of the table, because as we've seen in the league across the board this year, one result can send teams tumbling down the table. So it's all about getting a little bit of consistency, and until teams start doing that, the league could be anybody's.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we'll go through the fixtures now in the SC Electricity this weekend. Starting with the Premier Division, St Patrick's v Drogheda United, Dundalk, Cork City, Bows, Derry City, UCD, Shamrock Rovers, and the Saturday night game again is Sligo Rovers and Shelburne. There's also 2 fixtures on Monday night. We have Derry City, Dundalk, and Shamrock Rovers in Patrick Monday night in Tallaghstown. Big game there. In the first division, as mentioned, we're at chat Ronan earlier on. Waterford take on Cove Ramblers, Athlone Town v Kerry, Galway United, Wexford, Bray, Finn Harps, and Longford Town, Treat United on Saturday night. And finally, in the women's Premier Division, we have Shells, DLR Waves, Cork City, Sligo Rovers, Treat United, Peamount, Wexford Youth Bows, and Athlone Town against Shamrock Rovers. Don't I would assume you've got the showgrounds this week?
Well, I'll be on duty for LOI TV again this week, so I'll be up in the gantry, the best seat in the house as they call it. But yeah, I'll be there, no doubt. Yeah, well,
won't be in the gantry now, but I'll be on the Cammack again for Pats against Drogheda this Friday night, and I might make my way over to Tallaghstown if I can get a ticket on Monday night again. So hopefully the John Daly army keeps marching on. But anyway, we're getting to the end. There's a quick reminder that make sure to tune into voice notes this week. It'll be either released Friday night or Saturday morning. Again, always say great addition to the league, half-hour podcast, instant reaction around the grounds. Must listen. Anyway, thanks to Donal, thanks to Ronan, thanks to Macdara, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you all next week.